Okay, now we're going to talk about distance formula. And surprise, surprise, this is again just going to be a variation of the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so all we're doing is trying to figure out the distance between 2 points, basically. So if I were to look at this graph right here, we'll come back to the distance formula in a second. If we come and look at this graph right here, I've got a point right there, and I've got a point right there. Okay, so let me, first of all, let's just write ordered pair for each point. So this one's at -3 and -4. That's one of my ordered pairs. Oops. Yeah, -4. Okay, and then this one is at 2 and 3. So it wants me to find the distance between those 2 points. That's what that line is, right? It wants me to figure out the length of that line. So since we're on a coordinate plane here, one thing I can do is just make a right triangle and then count my distance. So if I were to, it's kind of like finding the slope, right? All you have to do is count, and then I can come up with the legs of a right triangle. Then this distance here would be my hypotenuse. So let's look at that. So if I were to count my distance here, so I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one has a distance of 5. So one of my legs is going to be 5, and then this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this one has a distance of 7. Okay, so then using the Pythagorean theorem, I can go 5 squared plus 7 squared is going to equal c squared. Okay, that longest side. 5 squared is 25, 7 squared is 49. Add them together. 49 plus 25 is going to be 74 equal to c squared. And then you find the square root, always the last thing you do, of 74. And it's 8.603, blah, blah, blah. We'll just round it to 8.6 is equal to c. So the distance is 8.6. Okay, so I found that just figuring out using my graph. I just made a line here and a line there, made a right triangle, and then counted, find the length of that triangle. Okay, so the distance formula is going to be something similar. It does pretty much the same thing as what I did, but in case you don't have a graph it on, like some of these down here, and if your points are really big, it's kind of impossible to do. So what we have here is a formula that will do what I did mathematically. So if I look here, one of these legs is going from left to right, right? Left to right, or horizontal, is my x-axis. So if I look at my distance formula, it says one of the things, and if I break this down, we always square root is the last thing we do, right? So inside here, what we have essentially is my x coordinates, b minus, and then squared, and then added to my y coordinates that are b minus and then squared. So what ends up happening is you get one number and then square it, and add it to another number and then square it, and then add them together, and then you square root. So pretty much the same thing you do with the Pythagorean theorem, right? Square a number, square another number, add them together, and then square root, and you get your answer. So this is just a longer way of saying it, but what it does is if I look at my line and take one of my x coordinates and subtract the other, and it gives me this first number here. So let's try it. If I take -3 and it's x2 minus x1. So if I take 2 and subtract the -3, that's adding, right? 2 minus the -3, get a big plus sign, same sign adding, keep, and it's going to be 5. Hey, look, that's the measurement I got for that line right there, 5. Okay, so what this is doing is it's giving me my leg. This gave me my horizontal leg, which is 5. This one over here is y. Guess what it's going to give me? It's going to give me my vertical leg, right? If I do 3 minus a negative 4, same sign add and keep, you're going to get 7. Okay? And then you would square them, add them together, square root. Essentially, it's the same. It's just the Pythagorean theorem. All it's doing is forcing you to take your coordinates, get each of your legs. So if you just get your 2x coordinates, subtract them, essentially you just have your Pythagorean theorem there. That's all it is. It looks a lot more complex than it is. But all it is just a form of your Pythagorean. So let's try it without the graph to assist us. So let's try number 33 down here. So let's look at this one. So I want to look at my x coordinates, the 13 and 65. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and plug them in. So distance, now the Pythagorean or the distance formula is distance is equal to the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y1 minus y1, or y2 minus y1 squared. It doesn't really matter if you do x1 or x2 first. You might get a negative number, but when you square it, it becomes positive. So again, all you're doing, all the biggest thing is just finding the distance between your points, or the difference between your coordinates is what I mean. Okay, so let's draw out our distance formula. So let's do x. So let's go this x1, y1, x2, y. X coordinate is always the first one in the ordered pair. Y coordinate is always the second. So if I take x2, which is 65, and minus 13, square it, then add it to y2, which is 11, minus 95, and then square it. Okay, so now I've got it set up. Now, order operations, I do parentheses first, then exponent, then add, and last thing I'm going to do is the square root. Okay, so let's try 65 minus 13. It's going to give me 52. Then I still have that square there. Plus 11 minus 95 is negative 84 squared. So 52 squared is going to be 2,704 plus negative 84 squared is positive 756. This is going to be the biggest mistake that is made in this section right here, going from negative 84 squared to a positive number. When you plug this into your calculator, if you do not put it in parentheses, it is going to spit back a negative number. Order operations are you make. If you wanted to do it correctly, you have to do parentheses negative 84 and then square it, and then it will give you the correct answer. Okay? So, but any number squared, no matter what, any number squared is going to give you a positive result, because a number squared is saying you're multiplying it by itself. So it's a positive number you multiply by itself, it's positive. The negative number you multiply by itself, it is positive again. Negative plus a negative is positive. Okay, so you gotta keep track of that. That's the easiest error, or the most common error that will happen to you guys. Okay, and then when you add these two together, you get 9,760. And then we still have that square root that we're still under, and the last thing we do is find that square root. And the distance between those 2 points is going to be 98.79, blah, blah. And we're just going to round it, so the distance is equal to 98.79. And that's your answer. That's how you use the distance formula. Again, it's just a variation of the Pythagorean theorem. All you're doing is taking your two legs, squaring them, adding them together, and then square rooting. That's really all it is.